So one of the questions we often get asked is, what about dot matrix printers? And up until recently, it was also a question that why don't we support dot matrix printers and such. So first of all, the good news is that we do support dot matrix printers now, at least some models of that, and I'll get to that in a minute. So we do support the dot matrix printers. So in south part of India, apparently the dot matrix printers are pretty popular even today in 2024, which might be a little hard to believe for some people, but yes, it is, very prevalent. And eVitalRx is very proud to say that finally we have figured out a way to support those dot matrix printers. So yes, we can support them. However, we're not quite a fan of that for a couple of reasons. One being they are very based on the old technology, and part of the reason that for those who might have struggled with us that we do support Epson company dot matrix printers, but when it comes to TVS, we still struggle. Why? Because the TVS dot matrix printers really are running on a very, very old technology, and their drivers are actually not accessible for anything browser based. So as you know, eVitalRx is a browser based, cloud based software, whereas those dot metrics used by the older softwares are, of course, also based on the older technology, and that's why they can work with them. But for TVS dot metrics filter, the problem is the browser does not support those drivers for the TVS, and hence, overall old technology, which we usually don't like to adapt to, and they are extremely noisy. As anybody who's ever used them, they know extremely noisy and not particularly great, feature when the patients who are usually sick or something, in your store. It's not the most pleasant environment to be in. But more importantly, like I said, for the browser is a cloud is a very new technology, and hence the automatics usually don't work with them very well. Some of the fonts are not available, and more importantly, who's used our software, they know that on the invoice, on the top side, there is a QR code, which could be a static QR code of your store, or could also be a QR code of a payment gateway. And of course, it's almost impossible to print a QR code in your dot matrix. So, however, in Gujarat, for example, LaserJet is very popular, right? But I understand that LaserJet might not be suitable for everybody, because it does have a bit of it is usually more on an expensive side. There is one alternative that is pretty popular among some of our customers in south part of India, and that is thermal printer. So anybody who's been to a supermarket like DMart or Reliance or whatever, you guys are very familiar with thermal printer. We do support thermal printer, of course. They're extremely cheap. They're extremely fast. They do not make noise at all. And of course, you can print any kind of QR code as you want on that. Again, one more time, it's very cheap. It's extremely fast. It does not take so long to make that clunky noise and really prepare an invoice. It's like 1 second and you get 3 inches of roll out, and you can use all the QR codes. So while we do support at least some dot matrix printers, our suggestion is that if any time, by the way, thermal printers are also, some of the thermal printers are also accessible via Bluetooth. So even if you can print it from the phone, you can actually connect your phone to your Bluetooth through a thermal printer, and you can actually use that as well. So it's really, a very, very advanced in terms of printing technology. And of course, look, we always support that going paperless, but we understand that sometimes it's not really helpful. By the way, one last thing is that if you do use eVitalRx, you can of course send a link to the patient through WhatsApp or SMS, where patient can also take a PDF or print, or whenever they actually have to submit to a, official for insurance purpose or something. But so that's kind of where we stand in dot metrics. The next topic is the data porting. So eVitalRx does support more than dozens of software that you can port your data from. So if you are an existing pharmacy that have been using the software for years and years, I'm sure you have lots of data, customer data, inventory data, distributors you used to purchase from, past bills, past purchases, everything you need for return purpose and all that. And a lot of time people like to believe that just like any other software company, we also take a week or so just to put your data. The reality could not be different. We actually do data porting all the time, every day. We do a lot of data porting actually. It usually takes an overnight. It usually takes a couple of hours, and at least there are dozen software, the most popular ones that we can port almost all of your data, which is not only your inventory data but also your past purchase, past invoices, customer phone numbers, customer data, customer addresses, distributor name, addresses, and so on and so forth. And we can bring all of that here. So let's talk about the process for a minute. The way it usually works is that pharmacies pick a day, the day they want to actually, export their data. We usually take their data around, let's say 9 p.m., 10 p.m. at night. We process the data within an hour or two. So next day, if pharmacy comes in the work, they usually have the new data available to them. One thing I must say that for the best experiences, in my opinion, if you want, you should be able to do that mapping. You should be doing that mapping so that all the nomenclature that you had in the old data, you come to the new software, you work with the new system, and if it's mapped, then you can actually take an advantage of all of our catalog features. If it's not mapped, then it's not really change much. Now, one of the argument usually people also had was that, what if you bring the data from the old software? We are so used to that nomenclature to search and all that. So there's a good news for that. We also save that nomenclature into our database. However, you cannot see it right away. You can actually see it in alias, but you can actually search through your old name, and you should still be able to locate your product easily. So there's not much of a learning curve that is required at all. One other question that we always get is, why do we charge extra for it? So there's a reason why. It's not like it's a one-time charge. It's not recurring at all. Why do we charge it? I'll tell you why we are charging it. So when we used to give it away for free, what was happening is that a lot of people who had old software but not quite using it, they had old data, never really did any much of a billing, or very irregular billing, and lots of batches in negative, expired, and this and that. And they used to bring that crappy data onto the new software. It was resulting into a subpar experience for those shops. And we realized that even if we charge something, you know, as low as 3,000 rupees, it basically only brings in only serious, stores that actually has maintained their data, and they usually don't mind paying those 3,000 rupees one time to bring the data porting here. Now, it also requires a lot of processing on our end. So, there's a team involved. Somebody at night, middle of the night, actually working on your data. And none of that is free. Unfortunately, people, when it comes to digital, goods, people don't like to pay for it, but they have to realize that there is a work being done. And, one thing I always say to, how jokingly is that, for if you deal with any businesses, you actually want them to be a bit of a profitable as well, because if they're not profitable, at some point they'll go out of the business. So, if you like eVitalRx product, and if you are doing data porting only once a year, not even 1 year, once a lifetime, then 3,000 rupees is not a tall order, in my opinion. We want to charge that so that we can incentivize the team that is really literally waking up in the middle of night, at 11 p.m., 12 a.m., 1 a.m., sometimes 3 a.m. up to, so sometimes support you with mapping. We run algorithms, we run servers to bring your old data. Sometimes people come with 2-3 years of data, and all those data actually cost a lot of server charges as well. Again, we're not trying to make money off of the data porting process. All we're trying to do is we're trying to make sure that our costs are covered, as well as we only bring the people with the data who are extremely serious about it. A lot of times in our experience, what has happened is, like, people want to say data porting, and the moment we say there's an extra charge for one time, and they realize that their data has not been enough cleaned, so they might as well actually start over. And of course, we welcome that we have opening stock, CSV file format. You can port it in, you can do anything. Even if you want to do anything manually, you can do that. You can do through the scanner gun and stuff. So there are lots of, and we are actually working on something even more so. So it really, again, let's, to summarize, if you do have a decent data, and if you do have a lots of data, then I think 3,000 rupees one time is not of meaningful charges. And we are only really doing that to cover our cost. Somebody who's going to wake up at 1 a.m. and to do your data porting is going to cost some money, unfortunately, or fortunately. So I hope that actually gives you some perspective on why are we charging about data porting and what is our total perspective on that. The next one is CSV and uploading feature. Yes, so this is, this is one of my favorite ones. There are lots of companies, one of them already went out of business, which made it popular, called MedDecree, and they're already out of business. So, which is not a surprise looking back. A lot of people ask us like, why do I have to do CSV and why can I just do uploading picture because they used to support this thing and why don't you do it? And so here's my opinion, and I've actually talked to a couple of pharmacies to verify this thing. The whole feature sounds amazing in theory, and it also works making the sale. Like, they come with a sample CSV or the bill, and they take a picture and it's uploaded and it's great. It sounds great. But in practice, it's extremely hard to get it right. And I'll tell you a couple of reasons why. One is usually pharmacists make some mark on invoices before actually doing it. So those marking really ruins the accuracy of the product capturing. Two, a lot of time camera is not good enough. If the staff is doing with his phone, it may not be the best quality camera. And even then, a lot of errors could occur in reading a batch, reading a product, and so on and so forth. Three, when it comes to medicines, most of the guys actually send CSVs anyway. So it's really helpful for the FMCG products. The problem with that is that a lot of FMCG products are not written properly, even by the distributors. And they're like, let's say it's a Memi Poco and it says just say MP, XL, this, and it's not easy for us. Yes, we can scrap that from the image, but we cannot map it to the correct image, right? Correct product. So what I have seen in experience, and trust me, I want to do this thing. Trust me, we have been wanting to do this feature for last 4 years since we started the company. If anybody remembered us from 4 years ago, we actually did build that feature. Agam Jain, who's my colleague, he actually gave a demo of as well. So 4 years ago, we actually tried to do that. The problem we ran into is that a lot of time was, getting a lot of inaccurate products. And in our experience, people ended up spending more time correcting those features. Correcting those product names and quantities and batches and prices and everything, then they could have just done manually. Instead, what I suggest is if it's a medicine, 95% chances that your distributor has a CSV, ask for CSV. If it's an FMCG product, we have all the barcode data. You can use your mobile, just scan the whole thing. We talked about somewhere else, and you can use that draft in the email. All you have to change is the pricing. Overall, this uploading picture feature is a great sales gimmick. It's nothing really more than that, in my opinion. I know it sounds very harsh and strong opinion, but I think I've been told by some of those really very experienced pharmacists that it never works really. It sounds great. When you look, it's like one of those magic tricks. If I show you a magic trick, if I'm a magician, if I show you a magic trick, you love it and you buy it, and when you go home and you try to replicate it, it just doesn't work. However, because a lot of customers have asked us, of course, we keep revisiting the same thing. Like, okay, what if the algorithms are, better than before? What if we can actually use some intelligence around it? So we are working on it again, one more time. Every 6 months we picked it up. We see if we can do something about it. We do have somebody who recently joined our company and they are working on it. And, what I can tell you the least is that if we find it successful, if we find that this is helpful to you, trust me, we would actually want you to you be able to use this. So up until then, I have lots of doubts, and I truly have not seen a good example of actual workflow. If you guys have anything, let me know. Kaushal@evital.in. Send me a video of recording of how accurate it is, and then if it is, then trust me, I'll put all the resources I can to get this thing done. Next one, patient application. So this used to happen before. Now that we are much more popular compared to any other, ERP software, and especially cloud, it doesn't come that often, but it's, every now and then we still do come across that a lot of people love our patient application. They love what we did with the patient application. Patient can actually connect with your pharmacy. They can place orders and all that stuff. But what they want to do is they want to use their existing ERP, and they are like, why can't we do this? Like, why can't we have a patient application on eVital and our own ERP system stays wherever it is, be anything, Mars, Skyway, C Square, Visual, whatever it could be. And most of the time is, the excuse is that our staff is already used to an ERP. So I have a good news for that. Like eVitalRx, for those again who have used it, it's extremely easy to switch to. It's extremely easy to use. Literally anybody can use it. We used to run this campaign where our team members usually go to a pharmacy, and these are the pharmacies who's never heard of eVitalRx, and we would say, you know, let's see if you can make a bill within, let's say, 2 minutes. And guess what? 8 out of 10 pharmacists would use to actually make a bill. So it's very easy to use, very intuitive, very simple. So they can easily switch to it. Now, of course, the staff is not going to be convinced like that, but I think, in my opinion, I think they can do it. The second point I want to talk about is that a lot of time, some people are extremely rigid about their older ERP, and they're like, why don't you integrate with their ERP system? And yes, in theory, it sounds great using APIs and stuff. In practice, it's much more complicated than that, because one is, integration sounds great in theory, it never works as we would like it to be. And also, then you are relying on to a marriage between two different systems, which is eVital and your existing ERP system. So every time something goes wrong, let's say there's something synchronization going on, you went offline and we do not get a real-time data, and then there is a patient order came in and it's not being fetched by your ERP, and so forth. Usually you'll end up paying more for this integration, and it will never work as smooth as it is. And very frankly, there is one more issue, is that there's always going to be a blame game, between two different companies. And unfortunately, pharmacists will actually bear the cost and the headache of it. And, one other thing I would say, which is more selfish in nature, is like, we also get, we are the ones who's going to get ditched, because there is an ERP system. You will never ditch an ERP system for a patient application. So we usually are very, very adamant about this portion. Our APIs are still out there. So if you still find it, our API, I guess it's up for the ordering system. So if you actually want to build an application with them and our ERP, that works, but not the other way around. It's usually extremely difficult to have one cloud system and one non-cloud system. One uses a different nomenclature system, which is very open to anybody. One we use is very standardized catalog, and it's extremely hard to marry them together. And I probably would suggest you that you don't go that route, because otherwise everybody will actually regret it, and it will be a waste of time and money for you. So that's why we don't recommend that at all. In fact, we don't support that at all. Next one is payment gateway. So what is it? Why do you need it? And some people are confused about it. So we do support a payment gateway. If anybody has used it, it's usually through a link or a QR code on the top. And it's not same as your UPI at the store. What is payment gateway? Basically, when you receive a payment from a patient through a UPI code at your pharmacy, eVitalRx has no knowledge whether you actually received the money or not. And hence, you have to go in the system and you have to adjust the payment method. If you use a payment gateway, let's say through a QR code on top of the invoice or a payment link, basically payment gateway, which is exactly what it sounds like. There's a patient and there is a pharmacy of yours, and we, as a payment gateway, facilitator, a payment gateway will drop a message to us saying that this patient has sent this much money to this particular pharmacy for this particular invoice. And hence, we as a system, eVitalRx, can actually update the payment status. Payment status for the invoice. And that way it's solidified, it's verified, and all that. And it's reconciled properly. So this is the basically difference. So think about it, is like somebody watching between you and a patient, and when the payment actually is successfully received, they automatically go into system and update the payment status. So that's what payment gateway does. It's not the same as the UPI on your standing. So that's the comparison with that. It's usually useful for, look, if you are only doing mostly counter sales, it's not that useful because you can always go and select up UPI as a payment method in your store. But it's usually very, very useful if you do a lot of deliveries or online orders, because that's when what happens is when you dispatch an order, it's usually supposed to be, at least technically, it's still a credit order, which is you have not received the money. And when you actually receive the money, the status should be updated automatically. The cases I'm sure you guys all can relate is like, you know, your delivery boy basically call you or ask you for a snapshot, or say, send you a snapshot that this is what I received and all that, which is cool, which is not a big deal. Unless if you do like 30, 40, 50 deliveries a day, yes, it's a headache. Or sometimes what happens is people forget to update the payment status. Right. So your delivery guy had actually received it. We forgot to update it because we're not the counter or something. And then it becomes a disputable thing in the future. Right. And that's why it's usually good with deliveries and online orders. And the last thing is, of course, the reconciliation is pretty accurate, right? Because you are literally receiving whatever money you're receiving, you are actually attributing to a UPI or a credit card or net banking or whatever it is. And it usually results in a very, very clean reconciliation. So, please use it if you find it useful, especially if you do a lot of online orders or deliveries. One more question is getting more than a support. So, we do offer a very good customer support, online. And, as much as we would love to increase the hours of the support, we also provide a lots of other ways to get a support. So if you go to a portal and if you go to pretty much any page, you will see a little light bulb on the top, usually on the top left. And that light bulb basically, if you click on it, a drawer will open on the right side, which will actually provide all the content for that particular page that is relevant. There will also be some videos. This is coming directly from our YouTube library. Our YouTube library has more than 500 videos, including demos and FAQs like this one, Healthy Dose, which is a series of discussion with me and my, founding team member, Ajay Modi, where we discuss, why do we do certain things the way we do. And you can take advantage of that. Learn more, you can search through anything you are interested in. You can click on it, hunt through. And now we are also trying to come up with more language support as well. There is one more thing that is coming out very soon. I don't want to ruin the surprise, but basically, no matter what we do, there are certain ways of getting support, like Learn More and YouTube libraries, always available to you 24 hours a day. And I think you should take an advantage of that. And like I said, there will be more languages supported in near future as well. So hopefully you can take an advantage of this as well.